Okay, so to summarize, a lot of CPTs, day one CPTs are getting RFEs, and
don't worry about it. That's normal. He is getting paid. He's just not getting paid in the currency that we need him to get paid. So it's not, it's unauthorized employment, but because he's getting in kind. There are people who are qualified, then your labor certification fails because you're basically testing the labor market. The old employer revoked the H1, the H4 automatically gets revoked.
Can an EB3 application be upgraded to EB2 at a later date?
So मंदिर में जाते हो घंटी बजती है ना, तो RFE फाइल कर, जब यूएससी पिटिशन फाइल करते तो RFE आती है.
Hey, what's up everyone? If you're new to this channel, my name is Yudi. I was an international student, came to United States to pursue computer science, pivoted my career to product manager. I have been working in the tech industry for last 8 years, have been a hiring manager for last 6 years. On this channel, I love to talk about studying abroad and everything related to study abroad, including how to build successful career in United States, which includes immigration. On this channel, we used to have a live immigration session with a lawyer, and those sessions have been now not anymore live streams. The session still happens. You can still join them. How do you join them? You can follow me on Instagram, newsletter. That is where I announce it. And it happens on every single Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time. It is just not being streamed. This is the video that happened this Wednesday, and now it is getting posted on Saturday. Due to timing conflicts, we could not go live on Saturdays. So this is part of those live immigration series. Another disclaimer, this is supposed to be an educational purposes only. You should consult immigration lawyer for your specific cases. So if you have any further question on immigration, please put it down. I'll collect those questions and put it in the immigration session if you can't make it in the live session. And now I will let you enjoy these sessions. Before we get started, let's, do you have any updates since we met last? Any new thing? Third lottery happening, H1B?
Who knows? Basically, what we are seeing is I have done a bunch of consultations for people on curricular practical training who are converting to H1Bs. So many of them are getting these RFEs, which seem to require information. Like in our case, one of our cases, we had already supplied the information. And USC has asked for a bunch of papers, including the information we had already supplied. So the employer was a little confused. What should we be doing? I said, don't worry about it. I don't argue with the USCIS because it wastes time and your money. I can argue if you want.
Right. But can you elaborate, like when you say CPT, so is it day one CPT or is it just
day one CPT? So basically, they were asking for things like what was the course that gave you the CPT, and that's already on the I-20s. It should all be there. But in any case, so there were a bunch of about 15, 20 things, which is not a big deal. What are the things they typically ask for? They're asking for the school to prove that if they are giving day one CPT, then the day one CPT is an integral part of their course. You can't complete the course without getting CPT done. How do they do that? They can do that through their websites. That our website says so. It's open for public consumption, that you can't finish this course without curricular practical training. And second, a lot of reflection. Second is you can show the school catalogs, which talk about what the curriculum of the course is. Okay. So that's one thing they've asked for. Then they've asked for things like, have you been attending classes, which is very normal. They have asked for things like fee payment, books, purchases. All of this is normal. But so the employer was confused. They're a relatively new company in this area.
Yeah.
They're not used to H1B hires. So when we first started talking, I told them, if you want to use common sense, don't talk to me. I can talk about law or I can talk about common sense. In immigration law, there is very little common sense. So abandon common sense and we'll all be very happy after that. Stop questioning why. It doesn't make sense. That we know that. We've been dealing with it for years.
Right. Okay, so to summarize, a lot of CPTs, day one CPTs are getting RFEs, and
And don't worry about it. That's normal.
yeah.
And one last line I told them, I said that um, employment-based immigration law has a stepchild, and that stepchild is called curricular practical training.
Mm.
Nobody likes him, but they don't know what to do with him. He's a part of the family.
I love that.
So
Nice.
that is the problem, that
Mm,
government doesn't like CPT. They look upon it with great deal of suspicion. But it
mm,
is legal. It is a part of our law. And if they
mm,
want to change it, they have to deregulate. They have to make regulations to take away the regulations.
mm,
So
mm. Yeah.
that's where we are. And that was the most recent thing I saw in the last week. A lot of these. And people get discouraged. And I keep telling them, so what?
All of these story, I compile the key insights from these stories and all the podcasts that I do, and I put this in my free exclusive newsletter community. Every week more than 16,000 people receive my newsletter and they love it. And here are some of the examples. You can see this was a podcast on George Mason universities, and you can see how to network and 10% cold emailing, powerful LinkedIn techniques, and so on and so forth. So if you're interested in becoming part of this exclusive newsletter community, absolutely free, link is in the description, or you can go to udj.com/newsletter.
सो
Yeah.
मंदिर में जाते हो घंटी बजती है ना,
हाँ.
तो आरएफई फाइल कर, जब यूएससी पिटिशन फाइल करते हो तो आरएफई आती है. इट्स लाइक
हाँ.
मंदिर की घंटी. इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड.
Right.
डोंट वरी अबाउट इट. इट्स ऑलराइट.
Yeah. 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 Okay, sweet. All right. I see two questions, and I already have those questions, but we'll just take it because they are here. Probably patient. They probably don't want to wait
You're doing
for our.
partiality to people over there.
I mean, if they like that, I should give them,
Partiality is what we call it.
or I would reward people who actually showed up. So,
It's not partiality, it's rewarding.
yeah. All right. I am an IT contractor through my employer on H1B. My friend is in USC, wants me to join his SaaS startup for business development, but he can't pay me anything now, but willing to give me equity and shares in future. I'm okay with that. What are my options to join him while I continue to work for my employer?
See, the problem here is this, Josh. The problem is you cannot have an H1B. You could have had a concurrent H1B doing both jobs. You cannot have a concurrent H1B without getting paid the prevailing wage. And there is no provision, unlike post completion OPT, there is no provision here to be paid in kind. Okay. So you will not be able to get an H1B. Okay. Now comes the second part. Can I volunteer? So there are two problems with the volunteering. First, from what I understand, I'm not an employment lawyer. I am an immigration side we represent people on the immigration side. But under the Fair Labor Standards Act, for-profit companies cannot take free work. And there's they can't do internships without paying people unless some very stringent requirements are met.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one problem. The second problem is, if I go work for you and I don't get paid, assuming that that's legal, is that legal under immigration law? Sure. I'm not getting paid. Why not? If I'm not getting paid in cash or in kind, that's not unauthorized employment because it's not an employment. For
But
example,
in this case, he is getting paid in terms of shares and equity.
that's where we are getting. I'm getting to that. So the point is, if you wake up in the morning and you say, I want to go to the mosque or the church or the temple, and or the Gurudwara, I want to volunteer my services. I can see you doing that. Early in the morning, you wake up at 4 o'clock and go and help make food. I can see you doing that. So
Thank you.
your functional strength training will help you there. Okay.
Yes, I did
Carry
farmers
big
walk
stuff.
today. Yeah.
Okay. So if you did that, could somebody find any problem with that? Of course not. Or if you wanted to go play music in a band and not get paid for it, because that's what you enjoy doing. I did that a lot during my school days, my student days. Can I do that? Sure. Why not? Okay. The problem happens where this situation, like you said, he is getting paid. He's just not getting paid in the currency that we need him to get paid. So it's not, it's unauthorized employment, but because he's getting in kind. And even if they promise in future, I think that's a problem too. If I tell you, look, you don't have work authorization right now, just come and work for me. When you get work authorization, I'll pay you for all this time you work. But that's still unauthorized employment. That's the problem.
So
Can't be done.
no option. Okay. Before you watch this, I want to quickly say that most people underutilize LinkedIn. They don't understand the power of LinkedIn and how to leverage LinkedIn to get jobs. I have built an ultimate course. It's going to teach you everything from optimizing your profile, getting sourced by a recruiter on LinkedIn. There are live examples, and also how to use LinkedIn and leverage LinkedIn to create the job opportunity that didn't even exist. You didn't even know that it existed. Let me give you a quick sneak peek, and I will tell you that more than 350 students have joined this course and they are loving it. And you can see everything from setting your profile, networking, search techniques, job hunting technique, and like live examples where I'm actually reaching out to people and doing cold networking, etc. You'll also get free plugin, premium plugin for H1B and OPT and all of that. So I highly recommend you check out. Link will be in the description. And to follow up on church and mosque and Gurudwara example.
Yeah, please volunteer, Yudi. They're looking for you.
I do volunteer. I do volunteer.
Especially 4 o'clock in the morning.
Not 4 o'clock in the morning, but I do volunteer. I actually do all the filming for my church. But anyway,
Nice.
yeah. So question is, if let's say church or Gurudwara had a requirement of building a website or an app, and this person is studying, they're not getting paid, church is not paying, can they do this?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
okay,
Why not?
and say that this is my kind of not work experience but volunteer
It
experience.
can still be your experience. It can be in your portfolio.
Yeah.
Why not?
Okay. And
Immigration
same for
law
OPT
cannot
as
stop
well,
you.
I'm assuming.
Immigration law cannot stop you from breathing. It can't say you can't breathe. What the hell?
Yeah. And same for OPT as well. Like if this person did computer science, building an app for a church. Okay.
Yeah. I had a client who was also a Kali Bhakt. So he devoted a lot of time in Kali's temple, the Kali's temple. So he spent a lot of time there, and there was some issue about whether that's legal or not. The temple wanted me to tell them. I said, of course, absolutely, why not?
Okay. What are the criteria or requirements for an EB2 Green Card application based on the employer category?
That's a good question because a lot of people don't know that. So, by the way, I want to make this clear. I think I talked about this briefly, but day before yesterday, this week only, I updated some of my cases. So I have a set of cases for this year for national interest waiver that were decided. I just wanted to see what the patterns were. To represent our clients better, we not want to know what the patterns are. So last 10 years or so, we used to have 10, 20, 30 cases per year, appeals. Okay. From January to July 3rd, there were 363 cases, I think. Okay. Over 360. Between July 3rd and August 19th, there were 200 cases more. So imagine this, 500 plus cases, almost 600 cases in first 3 quarters of the year, as opposed to 10, 20, 30 in the whole year. What does that tell you? There are a lot of NIW cases being filed, and there are a lot of them getting denied. Okay. Government has become a lot tighter. Earlier, we used to file NIWs, they went away. No problem. They went through. Now it has become very, very difficult to get cases through. So we are actually having second thoughts about filing some of the cases that we have and having discussions with clients. People still want to take a chance, but we want to improve their chances as much as possible because we know what is going to be asked. Okay. So going back to green card through EB2 category, one is national interest waiver. Okay. The other one, which is used the most, is called PERM, Program Electronic Record Management, something like that, PERM. So PERM process basically involves mm, putting in an ad in various places under various modes, definitely two Sunday newspapers or a professional publication, inviting people to send their resumes.
Mm.
The resumes of US workers only are considered. Who is a US worker? Anybody who is authorized to work in the United States without any restriction.
Mm.
So, what does that mean? Citizens, green card holders, political asylees, and refugees. Okay. So, these are the four categories of people. Now, what are the qualifications? What does it take? First of all, I have to look at your resume and say, okay, so you are working with Hadoop, although Hadoop is on its way out probably now. It's
Yeah.
old technology, by the way.
Yeah.
So let's say, okay, or at least it's getting there.
Let's call it Power BI.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if I well, know Hadoop and Power BI are two different things. So one is a data repository, the other one is the front end. So the resume should show me that the job you are doing, you have the background for it, which I can objectively demonstrate. For example, just taking Hadoop example, if you have Hadoop experience, okay, you should be able to get letters from the past employers showing that you've done this work. So
Mm.
we've documented your experience. Now we can, and if the job that you are doing now requires that experience, we can advertise saying we need 3 years of Hadoop experience, whatever is reasonable for the job.
Mm.
So when we advertise, now this is where things get a little tricky. When you advertise, the employer has to consider not only those people who qualify, but those who could qualify with short training.
Mm. Mm.
Okay. So short training means about 6 months. I think that's ridiculous. Nobody in their right mind, especially for senior positions, can
Yeah.
wait to train somebody for 6 months. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what the Department of Labor has said is reasonable. I take issue with it, and especially in today's environment, because if you have, well, I shouldn't say that because we had an ad run last week in which the requirements were rather basic, but it did require some high-end skills like distributed computing,
Mm.
virtualization of environments,
Yeah.
which are
And
not.
this ad you are saying, so for example, I want to file a green card for my employee. I'm the owner of the company, or like I own the company, and I am creating an ad that, hey, I need Hadoop specialist, whatever.
Yeah,
And yeah.
yeah. So your HR will work with us.
Mm.
Of course, I won't work with you. I'll charge you double. That's the
Right.
only way I'll work with you
Right. Right. I'll
because
just contact
you ask too many
Sumanji.
questions.
I was like, I'll just contact Sumanji because she'll get it done.
Yeah, Sumanji knows about this 10 times more than I do
Right.
because they do all the. See, there's a lot of paperwork in this.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
only do the legal part. Once
Mm.
the law changes, I sit down, I set up the paperwork, and then people only call me if there's a problem.
Mm.
So basically, the employer will tell us what the requirements are. Sometimes they'll say, I want 9 years of experience. I said, what is 9 years? I mean, I've heard 5, 7, 10, but why nine?
Mm.
Because he's got 9 years. You can't do that. You have to decide
Mm.
what does your job require minimally. And you've
Mm.
got to do it right because you're doing it under penalty of perjury. Nobody in this life, your employer, your boss, is worth going to jail for.
Mm.
Okay. So once we decide what the minimal requirement, remember, the employer is allowed to use their business common sense, whatever they decide, as long as it is reasonable and they can demonstrate it as reasonable. For example, if I'm saying I need an enterprise architect, okay, or I need an otolaryngologist, a physician of very high
Mm. Mm.
specialization.
Mm.
There are certain things that naturally go with that,
Mm.
and I can ask for those. If I need a senior level architect, obviously requiring 5, 6, 7, 8 years experience is normal for those jobs.
Mm.
So when all this is done, then you get something from the Department of Labor, which is called labor certification. And that labor certification then is taken and you apply for I-140. This process of getting to I-140 can take a couple of years because the first part of the process is once you finalize the job. So you decided what the job is going to look like. These are the requirements. I have looked at your documentation. I can see that you can prove that you have all these requirements in your background. Okay. We file for prevailing wage, requesting the government to give us what the prevailing wage for the job should be. That can take easily up to 1 year, 7 months to 1 year.
Wait, okay, so I'm a little confused.
Yeah. So first I told you the law. Now I'm telling you the logistics. The
Okay.
law is I cannot find somebody in USA to do this job for me.
Hmm.
Okay. And once I get that done, the labor cert comes in my hand. I file the I-140 next step. Now the logistics, how to get there. First thing is we decide what is the job going to be? What
Hmm.
are the requirements for the job?
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And these are very, very tricky. For example, I had a case many years ago where I was called in to give a second opinion, where they had said Sun operating system instead of Unix.
Hmm.
Sun OS was a very particular brand. I don't know if it's still around. Was a very particular brand of Unix.
Hmm.
Okay. So when you have required Sun OS, but the employee doesn't have Sun OS, they have Unix, government is going to deny the case.
Hmm.
So they can get that finicky. Although I can tell you this, between Sun OS and Unix, off-the-shelf Unix or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Unix, there may be 5 or 10 commands that might be different.
Hmm.
1,000 commands were the same.
Hmm.
Okay. So basically, we told them what to do. But the point is, this is a very delicate area where you've got to be very careful. It's almost like writing laws.
And the employee is already working for me in this
Hmm.
case.
Hmm.
So we are just creating another
No,
job
no.
position.
It's the same job because the employee is working for you on a temporary basis.
Hmm.
They have an H1B.
Right.
So the idea is that same job will be given to him on a permanent basis once he gets his green card.
Okay. And that's why the name perm comes in. Got it.
Right. Well, no, PERM is for program electronic record
Okay.
management.
Got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Basically electronically done. Okay.
Hmm.
So we decided what the job is going to look like. We asked for prevailing wages, which is going to take 7-8 months to a year. Comes back, we advertise, we have the client employers review the resume, we catalog the resumes, we make sure nobody's qualified. Then we file the PERM. Once
Hmm.
the PERM is filed, it used to take a couple of months. Now it takes easily a year. So a couple of years to get to the I-140 stage. That's the logistics. I hope I've answered the question.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like you have.
Hmm.
I hope.
So let me ask you this. What if somebody just comes out of school, they have no experience? Can they do a PERM application? Yes. Let's say they have a master's degree and the job says master's degree. You could say master's degree with zero experience. But there are cases. For example, we have a device manufacturing company who manufactures very high-tech diagnostic equipment, um, things like MRIs and stuff like that, huge equipment.
Hmm.
Now, they hired somebody who was going to help them set up certain AI angles in their devices. Okay. Now, this guy had a master's degree with a thesis on image categorization. When you do AI, one of the ways AI works is image categorization. This is a cat, this is a dog, this is Yudi. This looks like Rajiv, but who the hell knows? It's just it's a very specialized area
Hmm.
where you need some training. So
Hmm.
we were able to say you either must have at least a year's experience, or you must have a thesis, a graduate thesis that
Hmm.
deals with this topic, whether it's a MS level or PhD level. So sometimes we can use those kind of things.
Hmm. Okay, got it. And so prevailing wage, why can't you just say like it is $200,000? Why do you need?
Sure, sure. That would make it too easy. Then we don't see you are being that employer that I don't like talking to.
Okay, so this is the common sense type of.
Honestly, this is just
Yeah.
normal because when people are confronted, it's there's a saying in mysticism, in Sufism, as well as in
Mm, yeah.
our our own religious background, where they say when the mind meets the ineffable, it draws a blank. So when you're confronted by the great mysteries of life, you just go numb. What the heck is going on, right? That's
Yeah.
immigration law.
Yeah.
so,
Okay. Okay.
so this none of this, much of this doesn't make sense. See, H1B, you and I get to decide what your salary should be.
Mm,
Okay. We look at the data, we look at your salary, we look at the job description. Not so in green cards. In green cards, the Department of Labor tells you what the salary should be.
okay. So that is where you get it from them. Once you get it,
We
then
know
you.
what it's gonna be. Going in,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what's gonna be.
Ha, ha, ha. And once you publish, people still can apply, right?
What do you mean?
So I published this job, Hadoop specialist or
Anybody can
AI,
apply. Anybody can.
anybody, and then I have
No,
to, as an employer, say that
you have to look
no.
at the resume, and if you find, well, you know what, there are people who are qualified, then your labor certification fails because you're basically testing the labor market. Do you have to offer anybody a job? No. And some employers have a problem with that. Some
And
employers
so,
will
do
say,
you, as an employer, have to provide a documentation that look, 100 people applied, but no one was qualified? That's why.
yeah, and why they were not qualified. You have to give reasons to each one and why they could not qualify. They would not be able to qualify after about 6 months of training.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Got it. And
So
so,
that is the reason so many NIWs, because you don't have to go through the labor certification process.
right, you skip that 2 years of kind of process.
Yeah.
Got it. And so, when that it goes through, so this is when the I-140 approved stage comes in.
That's when you apply for the I-140. In NIW, you directly apply for I-140.
Okay.
EB1A, EB1B.
How long does it take? So once you apply for
You
I-140,
can file premium processing.
okay,
30
but
days.
30 days. Acha. So
30
30
days.
days it get approved.
Well, it gets a response. That response can be a yes, a no, or give us more information.
Got it. Okay.
About 50% of the time, it's give us more information.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And so once that is approved, that is when, and then after 6 months, people can do change jobs,
So you
etc.
can change your job right away because you've got your priority date. But if you also want to preserve the right to extend H1B beyond 6 years with any employer, then you wait 180 days. Not 6 months. 6 months is more than 180 days.
Okay, sorry. Like, so I-140 filed, premium processing, 30 days we got a response. Let's assume that it got an approval. Like, what does that mean? Like,
Okay,
and
so
also priority date, like, what does that mean?
first of all, when you go get a sandwich at a delicatessen, not in your city, there's no crowd, but in a crowded city. Okay.
Right.
In
We
our
have
next,
Chick-fil-A. We have Chick-fil-A.
okay. Yeah, I know Chick-fil-A, the lines can be amazing. So
Yeah.
if you go and get a token which
Mm.
places you in the queue, right? You get a token and you've got your number 123 in the line. Now, if you want to go and shop for shoes next door, you can do that. So
Mm.
just walk into Neiman Marcus or whatever the store of choice is. I don't know if Neiman Marcus is still in business, but you're going shoe shopping, and as long as you come before your number is called, you have your place in the queue, secure, right? That's your priority date for green card.
Okay.
And because there is so much wait time, 4, 5, 6, 10 years, you can go buy shoes in the meantime. Okay. Now, the I-140 approval does two things. One happens right away as soon as the case is approved, and the other happens after the case stays approved for 180 days.
Okay.
Okay. So the first thing that happens is your priority date. The moment it's approved, it's yours. If the employer revokes the I-140 tomorrow, no problem. The priority date is yours. You've got your token. You're going to get your Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Now, if you stay with the employer, actually, no, that's not true. If your I-140 stays unrevoked, even if you left the employer the next day, and the employer says, who's going to revoke this? It's okay. It's not required to be revoked by law, although there are some advantages to revoking if you have other cases going. So the employer doesn't revoke it for 180 days and revokes it on the 181st day. Now you have also the right to keep extending your H1B with any employer based upon that I-140, because the second right was now secured. Now, one thing you have to remember is you don't have to actually be employed with that employer. You can leave them. It should just, your I-140 should not be revoked for 180 days.
Got it. Okay. And I guess the third benefit, if you have a spouse, they get EAD approval.
H4EAD. And their right to keep getting H4EAD extensions also becomes secure if the 180 days pass.
Got it. So, and so, yeah, so H1B can be extended unlimited time until your priority date becomes current.
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
Absolutely.
And so, sorry, I'm like going in because this is very interesting. So let's say I filed in, I see this question a lot. Like I filed in EB2, but EB3 category date becomes current or more. Then people change it. What does that mean?
So when you can't do this for national interest waiver and you can't do this for NIW.
Okay.
Okay.
National interest waiver, NIW.
Okay. Because when you do an EB1,
Hmm.
you can't slide back to EB2 because you lose your category. That category is, think of it as, I won't even call it firmware. It is more like hardware.
Hmm.
Okay. You can't change it. You have to get a new laptop.
Right.
You've
Yeah.
got to go.
Like a motherboard.
Yeah. So you can't do the downgrading in EB1 or EB2 national interest waiver categories.
Hmm.
Okay. I don't think NIW you can, as far as I remember. However, when you have a PERM-based application, and my favorite analogy for this is this. You are flying to Arlington, Virginia from California.
Hmm.
And because you've made it big, huge influencer, everybody goes, Yudi. So, so you made a lot of money and you got a first class ticket.
Hmm.
You're going to fly first class, but then there is room in economy, and you see Rajiv sitting there, and you go, you know what? I'll just go hang out with him.
Yeah.
Can you downgrade? Sure, there
Yeah.
is room.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, converse is not true. You can't upgrade unless you had bought a ticket for first class.
First class. Okay.
There's no provision for that unless the air hostess wants to do it. That's where the analogy fails.
Right.
But the idea is, if you have obtained a PERM under EB2 category, you are good for both EB2 and EB3. You have to file a separate I-140 for EB3 also, but you can downgrade.
Hmm. Okay. And the reason you downgrade because
That's faster.
Okay. Hmm. Got it. And EB1A is talent based, correct?
So there's 3 EB1s, right? ABC.
Okay.
A is extraordinary ability, Einstein visas.
Hmm.
B is outstanding researcher or professor.
Hmm.
And C is intra-company managers, international managers, intra-company transfers.
Got it. Okay. And so all these people who go through I-140 is EB2 PERM process
EB2 is PERM or NIW.
or NIW. Okay. Got it.
And NIW for physicians is different than NIW for normal people.
Okay.
They go through a different process.
This was great. I feel like I loved this. Like this can be a masterclass. Nice. Okay, cool. Can I change jobs from Form I-140 has been approved with the new employer have to file I-140 again? Well, and will my priority day be reset? Well, we just talked about it.
Priority date will not be reset, Jansab, but you will have to start the green card all over again. The only green card you can transfer under EB2 category without having to redo it, two ways you can do it. Either you are national interest waiver and it's wide enough to grant you access to other employers. One. Second is, not only have you filed your I-140 and gotten that approved, you also have filed a 485. And the 485 remains pending for 180 days. If the 485 remains pending for 180 days, you can change to same or similar jobs with any employer without having to redo your green card. And that's called AC21 portability. What is AC21? American Competitiveness in the 21st Century Act. It was a law passed back, I think, during Obama times to maybe even earlier than that. I could be wrong. I think it was a long time back. So AC21 was a law that was enacted to make it possible for people who had been waiting years and years and years to get their green cards, but couldn't take promotions. This is so sad because if you have a PERM-based case, okay, and I applied for software architect, but there's a position for a CTO open, you cannot take it because you've shot over what you're supposed to be doing. We have to start your green card all over again. Okay. So for every employer, you have to start your green card all over again unless you're NIW or AC21 portability.
Okay.
This doesn't apply for EB1A. It also applies to EB1B and EB1C. And AC21 protects you in all cases.
Got it. Okay. Josh asked, can I be director or passive investor for that?
Passive investor, yes. Director, no. So yeah, passive investor you can, Josh.
Okay. How do you define passive investor?
One who doesn't do anything, sort of like you.
Okay. Sorry, I missed this. I'm on STEM OPT, expires in February 2025. Employer agreed to start green card process. When my STEM OPT expires, I have two options: day one CPT or temporary protected status. I also can have EAD for that, designated to my country, which is renewed every 18 months. Which one of these two options do you recommend to extend my NIV or W? I wanted to ask if my perm is started while I was on F1 visa, will it be problem if I change to TPS while my perm process is pending?
Yeah, TPS is really not my area of expertise. Whenever I have a TPS case, I have to ask somebody else because we deal only strictly with employment and business-based immigration.
What is
This is what
TPS?
temporary protected status.
Like what does that mean?
So, for example, if you have huge political turmoil, there's civil war going on, people are getting hurt, we don't want to send you back. We let you stay extra even though your status has expired.
Okay.
Okay. Now, TPS comes in two flavors from what I understand. One is when you're already out of status. The other one is when you get TPS while you're still in status. So then it's an extension of status as far as I understand. So when you are still in status and you go to TPS, that's a good thing. But please double check with somebody who does these cases. Okay. So the question is, which is better, TPS or rolling over into a CPT? Both have their pros and cons. So if TPS is keeping you legal status, which is what I just told you, then it's even harder to decide which one to take. If I had a choice, and if I knew that my TPS is going to keep getting extended for a few more years, I would take TPS. I wouldn't take F1 status, CPT.
Okay.
Because TPS gives you permission to work without having to go to school. But if you do want to study and you want to get experience at the same time, then both are the same. You can do either one.
Okay. All right. Yashwant is here. He's been asking me to ask this question, and I'm glad that he's here. Is it possible to get STEM OPT approval after working on 1099 in initial official? Sorry, I need to say this question just so that people will say like, after working on 1099 contractor in initial OPT and she applied for STEM extension with the same e-verified employer, could this affect H1B or green card even if the employer is willing to provide documentation if there is an RFE?
I see no problem.
You can be a 1099 contractor on STEM OPT?
There was some dispute about that, but more and more DSOs have told me that this is acceptable.
Okay, cool. Can an EB3 application be upgraded to EB2 at a later date? Should I apply for EB3 right away or wait for a couple of years when I become eligible for EB2?
Everyone who's going to go through labor certification, apply for green card as quickly as you can, because you get your priority date. And later on, if you want to apply for EB2 with the same employer or another employer, you can transfer the priority date from an earlier approved case. So that's an easy answer. Apply as quickly as you can. EB3, EB2, I don't care. You get the priority date. And I'm assuming this is for people whose countries are backed up, like India, and whose husband or wife are also from the same country. You're born in the same country. It's the country of birth that gives you your place in the queue, your token. Okay. And you can use your spouse's country of birth. So if you are born in India and your wife is born in Nepal, you can use Nepal as your country of birth, which is a lot quicker. That's called cross-chargeability.
Okay. What is EB3 for?
Employment-based third category. which includes skilled workers, which is just 2 years experience, or bachelor's degree holders.
Okay. And so most employers prefer EB3 or they prefer EB2 perm
Well,
process?
employers would want to get you classified in as high a category as is legally possible. So, if
Okay.
the job requires bachelor's plus 5 or master's plus X years of experience, then you go through EB2.
Okay.
Because EB2 includes both master's degrees as well as bachelor's plus 5 years, as
Mm,
long as the experience is 5 years, progressively responsible postgraduate experience.
mm, mm. Okay. Look around. Okay. In our last session, Rajivji mentioned that once the I-140 is approved and after 180 days, it's possible to change jobs. My question is, if I'm currently working in a non-profit sector and obtain my H1B through a cap exempt employer, and my non-profit employer files for a EB2 Green Card and it gets approved, with the I-140 staying active for more than 180 days, can I then switch jobs from the non-profit sector to for-profit companies?
Yeah, so there is only one difference between H1B and green card, which is this difference. For green card, it doesn't matter whether your employer was for profit, non-profit. You can move one to the other, to the other, to the one, doesn't matter. No
Mm,
problem at all.
okay. If yes, what should I consider? Not, please explain further.
Making a lot of money.
Nice. Okay. Cool. So we will switch to, I think those were all the questions. We'll switch to this. H1B cap exempt and how it works. If I'm working as a civil engineer at the dot government organization, hopefully I will get an answer from you. Okay. Not sure what dot means, but
He said, thanks, bro. Welcome, bro. Okay, so there are 4 categories of cap exempt H1Bs.
Hmm.
Number one, government research organization, federal or state. It has to be like Department of DOT is what, Department of Transportation. So Department of Transportation is not an R&D, but if there was an R&D branch of the or an agency and you were working within that, then you would qualify for a cap exempt H1B.
Hmm.
So research organization, state or federal government. Number two, non-profit research organizations. Okay, one of their primary purpose of existence should be research. Third, institutions of higher learning. So if a college gives you a job, university offers you a job, they can do it tomorrow. They don't have to wait for the quota.
Hmm.
Number four, non-profit institutions affiliated with institutions of higher learning. This is trickier.
Hmm.
This is trickier because the word affiliation has many meanings. Sometimes it means commonly governed. Sometimes it means there's an affiliation agreement. So there's all sorts of principles there. But two are research oriented and two are higher education oriented. Research oriented government, research oriented nonprofit, institution of higher learning, institution, nonprofit institution affiliated with institution of higher learning. Those are the 4 categories.
Okay. And so we don't know if he fits under the H1B cap
That
exempt.
depends upon where he gets his job.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Can we buy a vending machine and maintain it on H1B visa?
No.
Right. I'm on H1B visa. I understand I can't do any other business on this visa, but I believe I can earn passive income. Can you please list what counts as a passive apart from stock investment? Below are some of my ideas. Airbnb, but have a property manager to manage it. Investing in real estate and property managers to manage it, to manage renters. Turo, rent my Tesla. Oh, congratulations. For other drivers to rent for a few hours. Airbnb for car. By Indian grocery stores have workers manage it by gas station or restaurants or food trucks.
I don't think any of these can be clearly said to be passive income. So, would USCIS accept the definition given by IRS? I do not know. This issue has been left murky for as long as I've practiced, which is 30 years,
Mm.
33 years actually.
Mm.
So none of these questions can be answered completely. Nobody has the answers.
Right.
You can make guesses.
And let's say they did make a guess that, okay, I'm gonna have a rental property, put it on, hire a renter property manager, rent it. Do you is this can USCIS question it?
Almost certainly, because that's like doing business, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
Whether you do it directly or indirectly. Now, what if you were partnered in an LLC as a passive investor,
Hmm.
and you had an active partner who was doing all the work, and you were just giving money and getting money back? I think that should be okay. That's safer than being involved yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, so one of my friend, I don't remember the term they use, but essentially they started this fund where he and his team buys property, and they call it has to be accredited investor. You have to be an accredited, you can invest the money. All you have to do is so I have done this, and I've invested the money, and I just get the dividends from it. And they do rental management for property management, which one is in Virginia Beach actually,
Yeah.
and one is in Michigan. And all of these properties, they scout and all of that. So that is something more passive.
Yeah, see, I would never want to answer that question
Hmm.
simply because there is no way I can be sure that my answer would be accepted by the USCIS.
Got it. Okay.
However, you, the entrepreneurial people, need to know what can happen if government doesn't accept our argument that this is a passive investment.
Hmm.
As long as you don't lie about it, they can only say, you have violated your status, go get another visa stamp and come back. Or go get a visa stamp and come back.
Hmm.
And the fact that you worked without authorization should not interfere with your H1B as long as you didn't lie about it, didn't try to conceal it. I
Hmm.
wouldn't want to test this, but if you just simply because I am nervous about taking, being adventurous on other people's dime, it's very easy for me to say, Yudi, jump, yeah, jump, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So halfway down the bungee, you are gone. I don't want to be responsible for that.
Right.
So it's very
Okay.
easy to tell people, jump, 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 it's okay.
Hmm.
So if we can lay out the risks for you and we can tell you this is what could happen, but it's your call because ultimately, remember, I have told this to people at least 10,000 times in my life that I am not your business partner. I cannot help you take business risks. These are your risks to take. I
Hmm.
can tell you the consequences.
Hmm.
If you ask me, Rajiv, what would you do if you were me? I will tell you. But then I am a very peace-loving person. I don't care if I make $10,000, $20,000 less, $50,000 less. No amount of money is worth it. I had a very huge opportunity, and these
Hmm.
guys just wanted me to spend so much time on it. I said, I like what I do. I do not want to do anything else. So
Hmm.
the point is, it depends upon who you are. You have to make those decisions and weigh the risk. We can tell you what the risks are, but you make the calls.
Hmm. Okay. There are a few more questions from the audience. If a company applies for EB2 and I-140 gets approved, can I be promoted within the company to a higher position, or is it difficult to do so?
No, just do the green card again. I mean, what is the big deal here? So, dekho, if you are getting a great career opportunity, and even if you have to redo the green card, so what? You'll carry the priority date of the old case. Do it
Hmm.
again.
Is that like, does it get rejected if you are doing it again, or is just okay?
No, I mean, you are retesting the labor market. So let's say, for example, you went from being a software developer to a product manager. You know what that feels like, right? You went to become a product manager, and there's 50,000 product managers looking for a job. Now
Yeah.
all of a sudden you've got a problem. Okay,
Hmm.
can you go back and just stay on the old position? You don't even have to do that as long as you're willing to take that position when the green card comes.
Okay, got it.
It's a very weird area of law. I'll tell you why it became weird. It was supposed to be done and over in 6 months, not 10 years.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I have an F1 visa, will transition to H1B at the year end. A big portion of my savings are invested in the stock market, mostly index funds, but some individual securities too. I don't, or I do actively trade and plan
Oh, he
to,
says, I do ought. The N is missing. So he does not actively trade.
right, and plan to hold this for long term. Is this a problem with my visa status?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I really don't. I mean, to me, that is as clean as you can be. I mean, you invested money in the stock market. You're really not.
Like you're
It's
not
like
going and
earning
working
interest.
for Apple. Yeah.
If you had money sitting in the bank and you were earning interest on that,
Right. Yeah.
would that be illegal? I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. To clarify my question, yes, I will get TPS while I'm in a legal F1 status.
Yeah, see, David, the problem is I don't know enough about TPSs to give you guesses. You don't want guesses from your doctors and your lawyers. You want concrete answers. So talk to somebody who does these cases. I told you what the parameters of the problem are. Now you can double check. And I also told you, if you would rather get educated, then both are the same. But if you'd rather work, then TPS makes more sense. The only thing I would worry about is what if TPS is discontinued?
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Without promoting to a higher position, can we get a salary raise?
Why not? I also want your job. Sure. It's normal. In the IT industry, 3 to 10% raise per year is not abnormal.
My employer filed my wife's H4 EAD I-765 4 months ago. Can I switch employers? Could my current employer withdraw the application?
This is where the problem is. I don't remember exactly what the issue was. This was a weird issue that came up once. And ever since then, we have been applying for not EADs, but H4, we have been applying again. So what happened was employee leaves employer A and joins employer B before the H1B approval. Okay. So normally we don't do H4 extensions because H4 is good no matter how many times you change employers. But here what happened was because the employee joined before approval, which you are allowed to, okay, the old employer revoked the H1, the H4 automatically gets revoked. Okay. So the government took the position, well, her H4 is gone and you didn't apply for another H4, which is a very unreasonable position because if H1 is in status, then H4 is automatically in status. So I don't take a chance with that. I actually apply for H4 again. I won't do the EAD again.
Okay. Follow up on question: can promotion be achieved through AC21 portability?
Oh yeah, absolutely. AC21, which means I-140 approved, 485 pending, 180 days, allows you to take promotions, vertical movement within your own category. And my favorite example is you go from software developer to CTO. Perfectly okay.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Back to these. I'm working on a project for my course. My professor suggested that I should pursue this further and see if I can build a tech product with paying users and potentially build a company around it. I'm on F1 visa and will graduate in December. I would like to do this for my OPT. Could you please advise what can I do to move forward? Also, my university provided 25,000 grand for this project to convert it into product. Is this legal?
Yeah, because OPT, first year OPT will allow you to do something like that. So what you should do is you should have somebody certify the number of hours you work, like your professor. You only have to work 20 hours each week. Rest of the time you can smoke hookah.
Right.
So have somebody certify the hours. You can certainly do it in the first year of OPT. After that, let your university or your employer, your professor start a company and hire you on STEM OPT extension.
Interesting. Okay. And can he, so on, let's say on OPT, he register LLC and then hire board of directors who can fire him?
Well, that's much more complicated.
Acha.
For first year of OPT, all he needs is certification of the hours, right? So first year OPT is come and gone. Now comes STEM OPT. For STEM OPT, he needs a supervisor who's training him. Naturally, it has to be a technical person. So, professor.
And on STEM, on the first year of OPT, can he self-sponsor H1B for himself through this?
No, because government has, I told you this last time when we talked, that the government has been very unclear about majority stockholders doing H1B for themselves. If you're a minority stockholder and somebody can fire you, sure, you can do an H1B.
But then USCIS came back with that now
Yeah,
they are
they
allowed.
said some H1B holders, even though we are sitting on the regulations, like hens sitting on eggs, waiting for them to hatch. I don't know what they're waiting for. Some people might still qualify, even though they're majority stockholders.
Oh.
Very mysterious. So somebody asked me, what
Can
does
you
that mean?
specify like who are these some and what? Okay. Nice.
In Urdu, if you watch Pakistani television, they'll say na malum afraad, unknown people, unknown miscreants. So, who knows who these people are? I've never met them.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay and Viru. Nice. Okay. It would be great if you can make a video or share details on Form I-140 approved to I-485. Next session. We can do this next session. Okay. Oh, like, why do you make that face? Is
Because
it like
I don't know what to say.
okay.
So yeah, whatever. I mean, if there are questions, I'll answer them.
All right. It's been more than 4 months since filing my wife's H4 EAD, I765. Is there any way to speed up this process?
I don't remember. Can H4 be expedited? I don't remember, Yudi.
Is there a premium processing for it? No.
I don't think so. But here is, there are two kinds of expedites. One is premium processing. You pay the government. The other one is that there is something she's doing, which is in the one of the 5 categories, which makes USCIS expedite cases. For example, I had an accountant who was working on a government contract. So their employer wanted to expedite. It was expedited. Similarly, working for a nonprofit for rural electrification, project manager, H4EAD expedited right away. On the phone, actually.
Interesting. So email, call someone?
Yeah, first you call them. The way it works is first you call them and you say it's urgent, and then they put you through a supervisor. Supervisor will call you, and your lawyer or your whoever will then have to talk to them, explain what the emergency is. If they agree, they'll say, send the paperwork, I'll expedite.
Okay. Cool. I think we will call it. There are few more questions which we can save it for next session. But I think
we gotta do something next time also. See, everything we can't get done right.
These are very interesting questions, though. Who knows? Like maybe I'm just making up these questions. No, I'm just
You
kidding.
are making them up.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rajiv ji. We'll talk next week.
Take care, guys. Stay well.